Okay, this is Walker of WalkerX.com. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about dollar devaluation. A lot of people think our dollar is going to devalue and become worthless. I disagree with that, and I guess I'd like to talk to you a little bit about why I disagree with that. Many people think that the dollar is going to devalue to nothingness because the Fed is printing so much money. The reason why, first of all, let's define what I mean by the dollar devaluing or gaining strength. I'm not talking about in the dollar indexes that compare us to the yen and the things in other parts of the world. I'm not talking about comparing dollars to other countries. I'm talking about spending power. I'm talking about it. Look, if your dollar devalues, to me, if my dollar devalues, that means to me that I can't buy stuff that I need to buy and that I want to buy. In other words, I have to pay a lot more money to do that. This is what I'm talking about, the dollar devaluing, or is it gaining strength, which I think the dollar is going to gain strength, and is gaining strength. The video I put out about deflation, inflation, this is kind of a similar argument on both sides, because deflation simply means our dollar gains in spending power. So I'm being a little redundant here, but I'm going to talk about a couple more things I didn't talk about on deflation that are more specific to, is the dollar going to gain in value or lose value? Being in a deflationary scenario that we're in now, it's my opinion our dollar is gaining value, it's gaining strength, and we should hold the dollar, save the dollar, and buy as few new items as possible. Because for the dollar to get stronger and the spending power of the dollar to get stronger, it means that everything else deflates in value. I sold my Dodge Charger, 2005, 6 Dodge Charger, whatever it was. A very beautiful car. I love that car. I sold it about 5 months ago. One of the reasons I sold it is to use the money and put it into a certain investment that I'm working on, which is a totally other story right now. But the other reason I sold my car is because my car is still fairly new. It's a couple years new, a couple years old. And I do not, at this time in our economy, I do not want to hold fairly new items, because it's my belief that the car that I sold for $15,000, that a year from now I can buy a brand new one for that price, if not less, because of deflation and because my dollar is actually gaining spending strength. Now, one of the other reasons I want to tell you that it's kind of silly to think that the dollar can can devalue ridiculously, is because life happens in cycles, and cycles tend to have an up pattern to them and then a dropping pattern to them, and life tends to happen that way. The stock market has cycles. It has 70 or 80-year cycles, and it has even 3 or 6 month cycles. And our dollar, I believe, it also has cycles. And one of the points that I want to make about why I think it's silly for people to think the dollar will devalue too much is because during inflationary periods, which we've overall had an inflationary period since the deflationary overall, maybe we've had little deflations here and there or whatever, but overall we've had an inflationary period since the Great Depression. The Great Depression was a deflationary period, which was the dollar trying to heal, trying to find health. The dollar, a depressionary scenario is when the dollar and the economy tries to find health. A lot of people get confused when you say something like that. They say, well, a dollar and an economy is finding health when everybody's losing their jobs, when people are struggling to make payments, when people are up to their eyeballs in debt. My answer to you is yes. An economy finds health, and a dollar finds health when people are suffering. Because when people are doing good, and which causes and spending, and well, supposedly doing good, and by spending this fake fiat money that's not backed by gold, and we keep pushing prices up, and and therefore wages go up, and this, that, and the other, and this causes this inflationary scenario where we all feel like life is good and things are doing very well, but that kind of a scenario leads to a place where our dollar is actually very devalued and our economy is actually very much in debt, which is where we are right now. Right now, actually, we're in a healing phase of it, and the government's trying to stop the healing phase and trying to continue the inflation, which I don't think the government's going to be able to accomplish. Which is, if the government could accomplish it, then I would say the dollar would devalue like everybody thinks. But let's talk about how far the dollar is devalued up till now. Our dollar today is worth about a nickel of what our dollar was worth in the 1930s. A nickel. Talk about a dollar already being worthless, a dollar already devaluing. We don't notice that. We don't know that that's the case because we compare our dollars to the currencies around the world where they're all doing the same thing. So we don't see that the dollar is devalued. But in spending power, our dollar today is worth a nickel of what we could buy with it back in the 1930s. It's worth a dime of what we could buy back in the 1960s. So, our dollar is already devalued. That is why we have come to this head where the economy, the stock market, and everything is trying to find health. This is why we're in a depressionary scenario, because the dollar is sick. It is already ultra devalued. The government's printing presses and so forth are trying to stop the dollar from finding its health. And yeah, we all don't want to suffer and lose jobs and this, that, and the other. But the reality is that we are in a deflationary and, in my opinion, a depressionary scenario when this is all said and done. And that the government will not be able to create this inflation, which causes our dollar to be weaker, to rise again. And therefore, we're in a deflationary scenario, and our dollar is gaining and spending power, and it's trying to find health again. So the end result here, in what I have to say about this is, hold cash. Don't go crazy buying commodities, this, that, and the other. I'll talk about gold in my next video. Hold cash. Don't buy new things right now. New things are going to go down in value. I don't even recommend buying houses right now, even though they look like a great investment. I think we're going to actually see more value lost in houses. And we've got massive credit defaults. We've got massive credit defaults that are coming up also. Some people who are unemployed right now and went through their unemployment are going to be using their credit cards to survive. And so we're going to have a massive collapse of money supply through credit defaults. We've already had it in the housing sector. People not paying their bills in the housing sector. One thing that brought money supply into the economy is credit being brought into the economy and people spending money with that credit. This giant collapse in credit by people not paying their credit cards, not paying for their houses, is the river reversing and going the opposite direction. The government trying to pump all this money into the economy, into this giant economic Ponzi scheme, is like the government trying to row a boat up the stream of a river that's going the opposite direction. As soon as they run out of rowing power, this river's going to go the direction it's going to go, which is deflationary scenario, which is the stock market continuing to head down even amidst these fake rallies. Good luck out there. This is Walker with WalkerX.com.